Hi, I'm Delighted, and today I'm just going to be doing a pretty casual commentary over a King of Catan tournament match. The reason why I'm doing this video is because a lot of y'all have been asking me how do I play Longest Road, especially in such a heavy or wheat sheep dominant meta. So I thought this was a great example of how to play Longest Road and what to do to take down strong or wheat sheep, since everyone has been asking me that. And I think knowing the tools to take down a strong or wheat sheep is super important. So I'm playing with three very strong players, Vreg, Nyjah, and Catan. They're all very great players, and they all have their different weaknesses and strengths. But Blue Catan placed on the 5-8-10. I think this is pretty obvious as the first spot. The 5-8-10 with the wheat port it's such a dominant spot. You have the wheat, and there's a wheat port down there. You also have access to a 3-1 port. You're on the best ore and wheat. And this is a pretty high sheep board. You can't really ask for more. And at the very start of the game, I like to count the number of wheat spots that's available along with the number of ore spots. So how I typically count is that there's one ore spot with an 8-4-3, there's two with a 10-9-11 or the 11-9-4, and then there's three with the 6-9-2. So there's three ore spots. And then I like to look at the viable wheat spots. So that's the 10-9-11, that's the 5-8-10 or 9-5-10, and then there's also the 8-4-3. So those are the three viable wheat hexes with potentially the 8-10. But the 3 wheat is notably pretty low. And also in situations like these, I don't like sharing a low wheat hex with someone else, in this case being the 10 wheat. Because as you play with stronger and stronger players, they know that your critical weaknesses is low wheat or low ore, and they'll just block that. And they'll really pin you down and not allow you to do anything. So I really like what Vreg does as gray, and he goes in that 5-8-10, and he points left towards the 9-10. And why I also really like the 5-8-10 is because in second position, you know that there's going to be 4 more settlements, and Vreg takes a strong wheat sheep, and he has access to a 3-1 port. Along with this, he knows that there's 3 ore spots, and that when it comes back to him, there's a high chance he's going to be getting one of these strong ore spots. So now it's Red's turn. Young Nyjah, you can't really see the first part of his name, but Nyjah is a very great player. He's definitely one of my favorites, and I really respect him as a player. He's impressed me consistently with his plays and his analytical skills. So as fourth position, what do you do here? This is a really difficult setup since all the good spots are taken, and remember, all these players are really strong. So go ahead and pause and think of some setups of your own of what you would do, and I'll show you what I would do. So looking at this board and fourth position, let's talk about some things that I thought of, but some things that I didn't think would work. So the first thing I thought of was, how do I get myself strong wheat access? So I thought, well, the 9-10 is still available, and Vreg is pointing his road to the left, and hey look, there's multiple free roads available. There's the 8-4-3, there's a 5-4-11, and there's a 6-9-2. So why don't I just try to take the highest producing spot and cut off to the 9-10 with the free road? And the reason why this won't work is because of what I saw. As I always say this, predict what other people will take. So if I decide to do the 5-6-9, and let's say I decide to take one of the free roads, which is the 8-4-3, where does young Nyjah place? Nyjah, he could take the 6-9-2, or he could take the 8-4-3. Probably not going to take the 6-9-2, taking out the free red spot. Instead, he's probably going to take the 8-4-3, since it allows him to have double sheep, double wheat, and a pretty strong 9 ore. So you can play a classic ore wheat sheep game. But this leads to the issue of when it's Vreg's turn, gray, they can just place on the 6-9-2 and they have a free road. And since they go before me, they just cut me off to the 9-10. And that's not good. Also, I like to say that as you play and get better at the game, a lot of the phrases I say, such as no or 7-point score or like no wheat equals a defeat, those are just big generalizations. I've played multiple games winning without wheat. It's very possible. It's very doable, but it's more difficult. So because of that, I decided to not try to cut to the 9-10. I took a really long time on thinking about where I place. So the next thought that came to me is, okay, so if I can't get the 9-10, why don't I just place on the 8-4-3? So I started looking around, where are some spots that could go with the 8-4-3? And I see, 8-4-3 and 6-9-2 is a pretty good setup, actually. I do like that. And I get low wheat, and I have free road to start, and I have a 3-1 port. So it's actually not bad of a setup at all. I like it. But why I don't like doing the setup right here is because is first off, I leave the 5-6-9 open, and that's a really high producing spot that I'd prefer to not leave open. And if I don't take something like that, I'm leaving the 13-point spot to someone else, and that's just really, really strong. So if anything, I would want to take it out of play. So as a backup reserve option, I still do have the 6-9-2 8-4-3. It's just not the preferred option. But let's keep looking on this board to see what other setups there are. Also, like I said, I don't want to go Orbit Sheep because Nectan Blue, he's on the 5-8-10, and there's a lot of spots for people to go on Sheep. So I think Nectan's going to have a very, very strong Orbit Sheep game. And when someone has like the super, super strong Orbit Sheep game, a lot of times you just give up and don't try to fight that. Instead, you just try to find an alternative win condition. So in this case, since I see Nectan has a really strong Orbit Sheep setup, I'm like, all right, I might as well just try and going Wood Brick. So that leads me to the thought of, okay, let's try doing a road strategy since I don't think I can out Orbit Sheep that crazy setup right there. So let's see the strong wooden bricks. And I realized that there's not that much good wooden brick, but if I did want to do a road strategy, I'd have to take both the wood bricks. Both the strong wood bricks, which is the 8-4-3 and the 5-6-11. That also solves my goal of blocking the 5-6-9 since I don't want to leave a 13 daughter available for other people. And even though I'm going this game with no wheat, and of course I always say in my videos, no wheat equals defeat, I'm a little bit more confident in this setup for a few reasons. The first reason being is that I'm going to have access to a 3-1 port while having strong production. I think as a road player, you really, really need ports. It's especially important to help you get your cities. The second reason why I like this setup is because if you place everything out, well, let's do it real quick. Nyjah takes the 8-4-3. I think Reg takes the 6-9-2, and then Nectan at the very top, he's going to be able to get the sheep, so he can go 6-9-12 or 6-3-11 or whatever he wants. But this for sure lets Nectan get the strong sheep. But most likely he's going to take the 6-9-12. But what this leaves open for me is that I get the 6-3-11, and I like the 6-3-11 a lot because it's just high production. And when you have a 3-1 port, you just want to get more production. As a road player, since it's hard for you to get cities, if you can just predict an open spot, that's just as good as getting a city, since if I build on the 6-3-11 and that's actually open for me, that's an increase of 9 points of production. That's basically an upgrade right there. In addition, I start with the free road, which is nice. Why I really want the free road is so I can actually try and cut all the way to the wheat port on the 5 wheat. It might seem like it's a far stretch trying to build 3 roads at the very beginning of the game just to get on the wheat port, but it's very essential for me to do that, or at least keep that in mind. Because if that opportunity does present itself, then I not only get the wheat port, but I get access to wheat, which is really nice, and this is the 5 wheat which is defended by the Orbit Sheep player. Not only that, I get to take away spots from the Orbit Sheep player. In this case, it's the strong Orbit Sheep player. One of the best ways to kill an Orbit Sheep player is to take away their settlement spots, because they don't have really strong wood brick. And since they don't have very strong wood brick, if you can cut their expansion spots to only having 1 expansion spot available, then you essentially make their win condition 3 cities, largest army, and 2 VPs. And that's actually very possible if I cut Nectan off to the 5 wheat, and Reg cuts Nectan off to the 9-10, and his only spot to build now is the sheep port, which is the 12 ore. But I'm talking way ahead in the future. Let's just go ahead and place my settlements. And even if Nectan decides to take away the 6-3-11 spot from me, I can still connect my roads, and it's not in Blue's interest to go on the 6-11-12 and cut off the 6-11-12 spot because he needs the wood, and if he doesn't have wood or brick access, the entire table is going to be supporting me in cutting off Nectan since he's such a strong Orbit Sheep player. Like I said, the more strong players you play against, the more that they'll recognize someone having a super strong Orbit Sheep setup. Oh yeah, and Nyjah does what I think he does, which is the 8-4-3, and he does it because it's the strongest setup for him, having double wheat, double sheep, and having a strong ore and a 3-1 port. I think that's just a good setup in general. Reg, now he does a 6-9-2 with a free road, which makes sense since he wants to get on the 9-12, since he wants to get on the 9-10 or race for the 9-4. Both are strong options. In his spot, I'd probably go on the 9-10 first because you double up your wheat, you have a 3-1 port, and you really want this 3-1 port because you have so much wood. A lot of the times people tell me to go on a 3-1 port, and I ask them why, and I ask, what are you porting for, and what is your port fuel? In this case for Reg, the The port fuel is the wood, since he's going to be on the 6 wood, the 5 wood, and the 9 wood if he gets on the 9-10. So he has a lot of port fuel. And what he's porting for, it could be wood, it could be ore, it could be wheat. So he has a lot of options to port for. So in his spot, I'd go for the 9-10 first. And I thought everyone made very reasonable and smart placements. I liked it. I don't think there's any mistakes made, and that is really important since one mistake from another person can alter the entire game. So with that being said, let's start the game. So the first roll of the game is a 7, and I hop on the table talk and I say, hey, I'm the person without wheat. This is going to be a pretty tough game. There's no point of stealing from me since I'm already a pretty weak player. In addition, you want to steal from Gray since he not only has a free road, he also has ore, and you want to block your ore wheat sheep competitor. So blue makes a choice and blocks a 5 wood and takes from Gray. So Gray responds by rolling another 7, and this time he can block whatever the heck he wants. I think some good options for this block is the 8 ore or the 10 wheat. Those are both strong spots to block. Or even the 6 sheep. But I probably wouldn't block the 6 sheep in this case because people already have sheep. A common mistake by newer players is that they will block the number that is hot. Let's say 6s are rolling a bunch, and a newer player will block the 6 and it's like, oh wow, it's hot. It's going off. I must block that. But that's a total mistake. In this case, let's look at this board. If the 8s are going off, then a bunch of people have ores, especially Catan. So to respond to that appropriately, what you'd want to do is you want to block the complementary resource to ore. If you look at the resource chart, you realize that you can't do anything with your ore without wheat. So as a response to 8s rolling a lot, you want to block the wheat actually, since you want to render all the ore that they just got useless. So you want to block something like the 10 wheat or the 5 wheat. Or you can even block the 6 sheep if you want to prevent them from buying development cards. So Reg blocks 8 ore and takes from Catan, since Catan's in a ridiculously strong spot, which totally makes sense. Nyjah rolls a 7 now, and he blocks a 5 wheat and takes from Catan, which totally makes sense. As I said, we all are good players, and we all recognize that Catan's in a super strong spot. So my turn, I roll a 3. I have a brick. I have a road in hand. I just throw it down, since I want the 3-1 port. Blue's turn, he rolls a 9, just passes. And Gray's turn, he rolls an 11. So right now, I'm getting sort of excited since I only need a 4 and a 5 on this upcoming rolls, or 2 5s or 2 4s for me to do 2 roads to cut Catan off to. So Red's turn, he rolls a 6. He's offering brick, and he's offering brick because 11 hit. So Nyjah offers brick for an ore, and Gray decides to take that deal. And with that, Nyjah builds a city on the second turn of the game, on the second rotation of the game, which is massive. Like, wow, a city on the 9, 10, 11 is such a huge momentum swing. You just doubled your production on the ore and the wheat. That helps you have a strong, steady stream of dev cards and really just pin down the 8 or pin down whatever spot you want to. You shouldn't be giving someone a city on their turn for 1 card. But when someone asks you for ore, you have to think about, okay, why do they want this ore? Are they buying a development card, or are they buying a city? How close are they to a city? But on the reverse, really smart play by Nyjah to recognize that Gray really needs that brick so he can build to the 9-10. So it's Blue's turn, and he rolls a 6. And remember, you have to think about what the complementary resources are. So if a bunch of wood is rolling, then you know everyone's going to be wanting brick. And the opposite can be true. Also, you can say that same thing with ore. If a bunch of ore is rolling, then people are going to be wanting wheat, and vice versa. So since 9 just rolled, I know that Catan's going to be wanting brick, but of course, I'm not going to give that to him since the next road Catan builds is going to be on the 5 wheat, and I have the sneaky plan of trying to build to the 5 wheat. So getting no trades, Blue decides to pass the turn. Now it's Gray's turn, and Gray rolls a 7. But now with Red having a city, I don't think Blue's public enemy number 1 anymore. Since although they have a strong setup, they require a port to be flexible to have development cards, and they require a city to really have a strong output of development cards. And Red already has that. So Gray makes a really great block and blocks the 10 wheat and decides to take from Red. The 10 wheat just makes a lot of sense because you're blocking the 2 strongest players on the board right now, and you steal from Red since they have a city. And you want to block the 10 wheat because you know the 9 just hit and red has ores in hand. So gray decides to throw down a road to the 9 and 10, which is the correct play as I explained earlier. So on my turn, I roll an 11, and I know that there's a lot of wood on this board, and I can easily get 2 woods on this turn since 6s have been rolled, and I know that 9s have been rolled. And I also know because there's a high abundance of wood on the board, people are going to be wanting brick. So because of that, I offer my brick, and I'm able to get a deal with Catan since I knew that he really wants the brick, and I offer a sheep just as an extra random card. And with this play, I'm able to build 2 roads and cut Catan off. And he's like, gosh dang it, why didn't I see that? And of course, I always track people's cards and ask, okay, why do they want this trade? What are they going to do? So since I knew that I was giving Catan a road, and I knew that he tunnel visioned on wanting a road since that wheat port's super good for him. But now he just lost that wheat port, so really bad. And he builds a road to the sheep port since the 9-10 is going to be contested. So everything I said was coming true about Catan only having 3 spots to build. So Nyjah rolls a 5 on his turn, and this gives Catan more wheat and me a little bit of wood. And the big hurdle for me is going to be getting that 1 wheat so I can build on that 5 wheat down there. If the players are smart, which they are, they're probably not going to give me the wheat to build there. So it's Nyjah's turn, and he's wanting 2 wood, offering 3 sheep. And the reason why he's wanting 2 wood is because you know that the 11 rolled. And if we do this trade with Nyjah, we know for sure that he's going to be getting 2 roads in hand. So probably 1 road just to throw down, and another road for the settlement. And he's probably going for the 9-4 or the 3-for-1 port. So I counter offer a wheat since I really want this wheat, and I don't mind giving Nyjah a settlement if I can get a settlement also. Since you want the trade sets. If you're going to give someone else a set, you better get a set from that trade. In this case, I was offering him a wood for the wheat, but I don't think this trade's going to go through. Reason being is that he only has 1 wheat to spare, and he wants that wheat for the settlement. So since the trade doesn't go through, Nyjah decides just to buy a development card, which makes sense to me. So my turn, I roll a 9. There's not much for me to do. I think the only option I have on this turn is to probably trade for wheat, and the only person who actually has wheat right now is I think blue, because the 5 did roll. So I pass my turn getting no trades. Blue rolls a 5, and he's wanting a brick so he can build on that sheep port. He offers me a wood and a sheep. There's no reason for me to take this trade right here. It doesn't complete any sets for me, as I always emphasize. And taking that trade is 2-for-1. It'll bring me over 7 cards. And that leads me to getting 7 down earlier and quicker, which I don't like. And also not trading with the blue right here just makes him hold at 8 cards or do a 4-for-1. And both of them puts him in bad spots. So since he can't get a trade, he decides to buy a development card and pass. So now it's Gray's turn, and he's at 10 cards, and he rolls a 7. How unfortunate. It's really, really unlucky that he rolled a 7, since he's probably going to be doing a big play, which is probably be building on the 9-10. So Reg dumps his cards, 3 ore, 1 sheep, 1 wood, and he gets to move the robber. There's not a super good spot to block Nyjah at, and red is in the lead right now, and you want to take down the leader, especially since blue has now been cut off. So Gray decides to block the 11 brick and take from Nyjah. This does hurt me a little bit, but I don't care about the 11 brick too much. So on Nyjah's turn, another 5 is rolled, and that's more wheats for blue. So Nyjah's offering a brick and a sheep, wanting wood and wheat. I think that doing this trade is pretty suicide since he's already inside the lead, and you have to ask yourself, what is he doing with this trade? And I think with this trade, he's probably going to be building a settlement. And Nyjah's talking inside the chat saying, this is a good deal, blah, blah, blah. But it's not a good deal. Also note is that Nyjah didn't play a night card when it's on the 11 brick, but it makes sense to actually not play a night card when it's on the 11 brick, since as red right here, you already have bricks in hand, there's no reason to move it, and the 11 brick doesn't really hurt you that much at all. You can still play a development card game perfectly fine. So if there was a night card, I would hold the night, unless it was on one of the more critical spots, being the 10 wheat, the 9 ore, or the 8 sheep. So getting no trades, Nyjah decides to hold. It's my turn. I roll a 12, that's some ores for Catan, and this is actually a sort of bad roll. I didn't want a 12 right here, since if a 12 is rolled, that gives ore to Catan, and what this does is it makes Catan's wheat a lot more valuable, and I really want blue's wheat to trade. So I have 2 options for getting wheat. I can do a 2-for-1 right here, and try to get a wheat from blue, or I can try getting an additional wood so I can 4-for-1 for the wheat. So I decided to go with the first option, offering a 2-for-1 for the wheat, offering a wood and a sheep with blue. But this trade is sort of a trap trade since it lets blue 7 out, since he's at 7 cards and it brings him over 7 cards. So I offer a sheep for a wood, hoping to get that 4-for-1 for the wheat. But blue immediately says no, which makes sense. So now I offer an ore for a wood, since I really want to get that 4-for-1 so I can build this turn. The reason why it's so critical for me to get a trade this turn is because if I don't get a trade, I'm forced to 4-for-1 or hold, and that sucks. Building this turn is very important, since it allows me to go not wheatless, which is really vital. Also, we're table talking right now, and Catan is wanting a brick, but I can't really give a brick since it breaks my own settlement. And since he really wants my brick for wheat, but I don't like this trade since it still leaves me over 7 cards, since I can still get 7'd out, and it doesn't reduce my hand size at all. So I decided to amend that trade and offer, listen, I'll give you 3 for 2, I'll give you an ore and all these cards. I'll give you all these cards for a wood and a sheep. And what that trade does, that 3 for 2 right there, it still allows me to build a settlement. So Nek then says, listen, I don't want to do any complicated trades. All I want is a 1-for-1. So with that being said, I decided to do that brick for wheat trade with Nek then, and I get it. And the reason why I'm willing to do that trade also is because I know that Niger has some brick. So I was thinking it's a puzzle. If I can get a 1-for-1 right here, I can probably trade for the brick since I know Niger has some bricks. In addition, I could also trade for wood still since I can still do 4-for-1. So after a lot of haggling failed trade attempts, I got a 2-for-1 for Niger and offer him 2 wood for a single brick, and this allows me to build a settlement. So I do give Niger 2 rare woods, which he really needs, but I do take away one of his bricks, but more importantly, I have wheat access. I was really desperate and needed this trade. So yes, I did help him a lot, but as a result, I got a settlement on the 5 wheat, which was very critical. Gray rolls a 3, he's at 8 cards, and he's still looking to build on that 9-10, since that 9-10 is very strong for him. And surprisingly, on Gray's turn, they decide to hold. And as I say that, another 3 is rolled, and now Niger has 2 wheats. So the first thing he does on his turn is he buys a development card. And now he plays a Year of Plenty. And a good rule of thumb for Year of Plenty is first of all, you want to complete a set with a Year of Plenty. And second of all, you want to be able to Year of Plenty for the rare resources. So in this case, he Year of Plenty is for a wheat and a brick, and he gets on the 3-1 port. And he also buys the dev cards, really great sequencing by him. So on his turn, he's able to buy 2 dev cards and a settlement on the 3-1 port. That is a massive turn for him. So my turn, I roll an 8, I get an ore, but this hand still sort of sucks since I still need the 5s to hit to get me some wheat. I know people are still wanting bricks since woods have been rolled, so I offer a brick to see what trades there are out there. I get a wood counter offer and I get an ore counter offer. And in situations like these, instead of just choosing one, you want to say to the entire table, oh, I would be glad to trade with you, but if someone could offer 1 extra card, then I'll take that. And that's how you get 2-for-1s on your turn, just by saying, oh, I would love to do this trade, but whoever can pay me more will get this trade. It's really important to frame it that way. And since I'm at 7 cards, I don't feel super comfortable holding, since as soon as I get another card, this will get me 7'd out. So I decided to just dump a road on the 6-3-11. Since the 6-3-11 is still very strong, that's a 9-point spot. So it's Blue's turn, and he rolls a 9, and he decides to pass. So Gray's turn, and he rolls a 9, and he dodges 7 for 1 turn. And he's wanting a sheep for wood. And I think the reason why he wants the sheep for wood trade is probably so he can do a 4-for-1 and build on the 9-10 for that missing resource he has. I know for sure that Gray has sheep in hand because the 8's rolled. And I know the 8's rolled because I have ore in hand. And what's so cool about trade offers is that you can slowly piece together what your opponents have. I don't remember what everyone's card is just off memory. That's super hard to do. Instead, I use logic to figure it out. So first of all, I know that Gray is trying to build on the 9-10. So what does that require? That requires a settlement, and a settlement requires a wood, brick, wheat, and sheep. I also know that Red is looking for a wheat and a brick, and he's wanting the sheep because he wants to do a 4-for-1 trade. But in order to do a 4-for-1 trade, you need 5 cards. Why 5? So you have 1 left over for the settlement, and 4 sheep to do that 4-for-1. And I also know that he's willing to trade wood and ores. That means I know that he has at least 1 wood extra in his hand that he's willing to trade, and some ores, of course. So that's why he offers this trade right here. So this tells me his hand is at least 4 sheep, 2 woods, and 1 ore. Just this one trade right here, it tells me 7 out of his 11 cards already. This is the power of tracking people's trades in order to figure out people's cards. I don't have amazing memory, but instead I just use logic to figure it out. It's Red's turn, and they roll another 3, and this gives them more wheat, and they decide to buy a development card. Red is at 4 points with the city and 3 development cards. Red is getting very, very scary very quickly. They are an exceptional player, and I really respect them a lot. So it's my turn, and I roll a 6, but the 6 doesn't really do anything for me. I need wood, and I need wheats. The only person who has wheats right now is 1 wheat from Reg, but he did that 4th one for the settlement, so he's not going to trade that up. And I think the other person who has wheats right now is Nija. So before I pass my turn, I decided to offer a brick and see what counter offers I get. So once again, I say to the table, listen, I would love to do a trade, but both of y'all are offering me the same thing. So whoever can throw me 1 extra card will get the trade. But with that, they say, no, we're not going to give a 2-for-1, and they decide to pass. So with that, I pass at 7 cards. Blue rolls a 4, and by now, I'm starting to get terrified of red. They're super scary. And it's Blue's turn, and I say, you're not going to be able to win this game with that largest army, and especially since given your setup, since you only have 3 settlement spots. So you need to be buying night cards in order to catch up to red. And I'm table talking him to do this because look at all the spots we share. We share the 8 ore together, we share the 5 wheat together, we share the 6 wheat together, and I know that red is going to slaughter us if no one competes with red for knights. This is a dangerous situation to be in if no one races red for largest army. So I encourage Blue to do that. And I'm being truthful when I say that. Blue's only win condition is to get largest army. Without it, they really cannot win. So another 4 rolls on Gray's turn, and they are wanting a sheep. I know from the trade before, they had 4 sheep and they 4-for-1'd it, so now they're wanting a sheep for the settlement. But of course, you don't just give someone a set for free. That doesn't really make sense. So even though I do have sheep to spare, I'm not going to give him a settlement on the 9-10. That just doesn't really make sense. Even if he offered 2-for-1s, it just doesn't really make sense for me to give someone else a set, especially since I don't get an immediate return, and I'm over 7 cards, so I can still lose that all to the robber. So it doesn't really make sense for me to do this trade at all. So everyone says no to Gray's deal, and they decide to do a 4-for-1, and they decide to do a 4-for-1 for wheat, and they decide to city up, which is a fine alternative. But getting on the 9-10 is still very critical for them. So on Red's turn, they roll a 5, and this is so important for me. I have 11 cards, and I just need to dodge a 7 on my turn so I can do a really big play. So on Red's turn, they decide to play a Year of Plenty for 2 wheats. And this is a decision that can be argued about what is the right move, since they decide to do Year of Plenty for 2 wheats, and they buy 2 development cards with that. And in this situation, I might agree, since no one's really racing you for largest army as Red, and you can save that Year of Plenty for potentially something more important, like maybe getting a city. But in general, this still wasn't a bad play. Getting 2 dev cards with the Year of Plenty is still a very good play. And now Red has 4 development cards. They are really locking down army. So I roll a 7 on my turn. I want to rip my hair out. No! This is really, really bad. So I'm figuring out what to discard, and I have a few options. First off, whenever you roll a 7, you have to think about what's in people's hands and how can that change your turn. So I see right here that I have 3 ore and 1 wheat, and I'm only 1 wheat away from a city. I also realize that Red and Gray are both at 2 cards, so it's a high chance that they have a wheat. But you have to think about what the past actions were. Red just Year of Plenty'd for 2 wheat, and if they play a Year of Plenty on 2 wheat, that means they don't have wheat in their hand. So that means Red doesn't have any wheat. And Gray just built a city, and to get that city, he had to do a 4-for-1 for wheat. That means Gray doesn't have a wheat either. Now, a 5 did roll, and I could go for the 25% chance of stealing a wheat from Blue, but I feel like right here, there's no reason to rush for a city. Usually, cities are better than settlements. But in this case, you can easily argue a settlement is much better than a city, especially without the 3-1 port. So I'm just going to be discarding everything except for my settlement. I also want to keep the ores because ores are valuable, and I want to be able to get a city soon, since although I said settlements are better than cities, a city still is really good. So I block the 9 ores since that's the heavy producing ore spot, and I take from Red. And with that, I have a settlement in hand along with 3 ore. Now, what do I build my settlement on, and why? You always have to ask yourself, why? So if I build a settlement on the 6 through 11, that's so much production. It just looks super juicy and it looks super nice. But building on the 6 through 11 is actually a trap. You don't want to build on the 6 through 11 because it's a bunch of useless production. You have to ask yourself, how does more sheep and a little bit of brick help me? The fact is, this doesn't help you without a 3-1 port, since you want this production in order to port it for ores and wheats so you can get cities. In addition, by building on the 3-1 port, it allows you to build on the 6 through 11 easier. The high production on the 6 through 11 can only be utilized once you have the 3-1 port. Therefore, I make the decision to build on the 3-1 port before I build on the 6 through 11. I'm also not afraid of losing the 6 through 11 spot because blue's only at 4 cards and they don't have the perfect 4 cards to do road building back to the 6 through 11. So blue decides to buy a dev card on his turn and passes. So it's gray's turn and they roll a 6 and they have woods and they're wanting sheep one more time since they're still trying to get on the 9-10. So now it's red's turn and they play a night card before they roll and they decide to block the 8 ore. And they decide to take from blue because blue is racing them for largest army. And now it's my turn and I roll a 4. So I have a decision. Do I want to port 3 for 1 for my ores for the settlement on the 6 through 11? Or do I want to try for a city? Of course, if anything, if you can try trading, always try trading. On this turn, I have a lot of options. I can get a brick to build a settlement, or I could get a wheat to build a city, or I could get 2 woods so I can port for a settlement, or I could port for a city. So I have a lot of options. I just need a single trade to go through it. And worst case scenario, I can just port 3 ores for 1 brick, but I would not like to do that. So I get a trade it here, 1 sheep for wood, and I'm willing to take this trade since I can 3 for 1 for a wheat, which completes my set, which is a city. Of course, cities are good. Also, another option I could do on this turn is to buy a dev card, but I don't think buying a dev card makes very much sense for me, since I really don't want to break up my own city. So getting that trade from gray, I am able to port for a wheat and get a city, and decide to upgrade the 8-4-3 because first of all, the 8 ore is protected by Catan. Second of all, the 4 and the 3 aren't blocked, and third of all, I'm upgrading the ores, and upgrading the ores is good because it leads the cities faster. Because it's like exponential growth. If you upgrade the things that help you upgrade, then you can upgrade other things faster. So Catan plays a night card, he blocks the 9 ore, and he takes from red. Now it's gray's turn, and he rolls an 8, which is good since it gives me 3 ores. So I'm almost close to another city. I just need like a 5 and a 6 or something to get me another city. And I also can build on the 6 through 11, which is a lot more production too. So gray on his turn, he builds a 9-10, which is a pretty big step for him since he gets more wheat and he gets a 3-1 port and he can start porting his woods to buy dev cards. But it might just be too late because red have so many development cards already. Red on their turn, they play a night card and they block the 8 ore and take from me. And as soon as they do that, an 8 is rolled, and that hurts, but there's not much I can do about it. They also take an ore from me, which is bad since it gives them more development card material, and they didn't have ore in hand. So on my turn, a 10 is rolled, and a pass. And this is really bad. More wheats for red, that's not good at all. I'm starting to get very afraid of red right here, and I really want blue to buy development cards. Since as I said, blue is sort of my teammate. They protect the 8 ore for me, they protect the 5 wheat for me, they protect the 6 sheep for me. So I really want blue to buy more development cards. So this entire time I'm table talking blue saying, hey listen, I'll give you whatever materials you need so you can stop red since they're such a big threat. So blue plays a night card on his turn and I rejoice and he blocks the 9 ore, then rolls a 7 and he blocks the 8 sheep and takes from red. And with that he buys a development card and I cheer. So on gray's turn he rolls a 9 and that's some ores and that's woods for him. And decides to do a 3-for-1 with his new port and get a city. So now red plays another night card, and he has largest army. And he blocks the 8 ore, and he decides to steal from me, and he gets the sheep. With that, red buys another development card. So if you haven't watched videos of ore, wheat, sheep, a few turns ago, red was only at 4 points, but everyone was targeting him because they all know how strong and how dangerous ore, wheat, sheep is. And they also know that even though ore, wheat, sheep can have a low point total, they can jump in points very, very quickly. So even though I'm at 5 points and I can take longest road, red's still way more dangerous. So it's my turn, I roll an 8, another 8 is blocked and I'm heartbroken, but there's not much I can do. I can buy a development card right now, or I can decide to pass. What is the right move? So the pros of buying a development card right here is that if I get a night card, I have positioning on red, So if they block my 8 ore, I can immediately move it and block red again. If I get a Monopoly, that's always really good. If I get a Road Building, it's one of the more useless cards, but it's still not bad considering that I can build on the 5-2. If I buy a Victory Point, that's also pretty good, since the 10th point for road players is really difficult to get, since a lot of the times what happens is that you get longest road, a city, and you have 5 settlements, and that leads to 9 points. And for you to get your 10th point, you either have to buy a Victory Point, or you have to get a city, and a city for your 10th point is pretty difficult. But if you have a Victory Point, it makes it so your 10th point is not a city, and that makes it a lot easier. Of course, I'm heavily generalizing things, and that's not always the pattern for red players. And Year Plenties have already been bought out by red. So because I realize every single dev card in this situation is pretty useful, and the fact that my 8 ore is blocked, I might as well just buy one. So with that, I decided to buy a dev card and I get the Road Building. And I'm pretty happy with this. This allows me to do the 2 roads to get to the 5-2, and I can double up on the wheat. And this allows me to get an 8 and a 5 to have a city quickly. So blue plays a knight card in his turn. He's creeping up on red for largest army, and blocks the 9 ore and takes from red since red's very threatening. Since red can right now be at 9 points, they're so threatening, since those 3 down cards could be victory points. In addition, red can still take longest road, and that's frightening. The only way to make red not a threat anymore is by removing their largest army. So that's why I'm helping blue take away his largest army, by funding blue the materials to buy development cards. So with the ore, blue buys another development card, and I'm praying those are all knight cards. So it's gray's turn, and he rolls a 9. Also, blue gave me 2 cards since I knew that they could give me 2 cards, and I want to be greedy and just get more cards in general. So gray rolls a 9, it's a wood, and the ore is blocked, and I'm super grateful for that. On red's turn, they roll a 10, and they get wheats. Red didn't play a knight card before they rolled, so I'm starting to get suspicious. And when there's 6 knights already out there, and there's a bunch of unplayed development cards, you have to really watch out for monopolies. And in higher level play, people don't hesitate to do the dirty monopoly trick. If you don't know what the dirty monopoly trick is, it's basically where you offer a resource to give away and then you monopoly it right back. So let's say I offer someone 3 wheat for 1 ore, and they give me an ore, and I monopoly the 3 wheat back. But you want to combine the dirty monopoly trick with resources that are already out there. So in this case, since the 10 just rolled, we know that 4 wheats are already out there. And I'm suspicious that red is trying to give away their wheats and then monopoly it all back for a strong wheat monopoly. So I'm table talking the table to watch out for that since red didn't play a knight card. One of the reasons why you wouldn't play a knight card in this situation is because you want to use the monopoly instead. Remember, you can only play 1 monopoly at a time. So since I'm suspicious with red, I tell the entire table, no, we're not going to do trades, and I say no to red's trades. So they decide to buy a development card and port for an ore and buy another development card. So now red is at 5 development cards at 6 points. But the saving grace is red did not play a knight card that turn, and when it gets the blue's turn, they have 2 development cards, and I can hope and pray that one of their development cards is a knight. So this will really stall out the game by blue temporarily taking largest army. But why I say it's temporary is because red has 5 development cards. They can still really do a lot. And since they didn't play knight when it's on their 9 ore, I know that 3 of their development cards are non-knight cards. So this is getting really scary by red, and I'm sensing that they could win at any moment. And I'm feeling very grateful that they didn't play a knight card to hold largest army, since the game will be extended just by a little bit when blue takes largest army from red. And on this turn, I only have 5 cards, and I'm debating if I want to play road bidding or not. So even though red is going to lose largest army, I'm still terrified that red can have a road bidding, and they can do 2 roads and then build 1 road to take longest road. And they still have 4 other development cards, even if they do have a road bidding. This is terrifying. And I know that 3 development cards that they have are non-knight cards. So it's a high chance that they could have a road bidding and screw me over and win. And they can still win just by taking longest road and having 4 victory points. It's not that unlikely. But I decided the odds of red taking longest road and them having the victory points in order to win is too low. So I decided to hold back on my road bidding and don't play it. On blue's turn, they roll an 8, and they buy another development card. I am hoping and praying that they play a knight card. And they do, and that's super huge for me. So, blue plays a knight card, and he blocks the 8 sheep and takes from red. Blue just saved the game. Blue's wanting to buy more development cards, and he offers me 2 wheat for sheep and an ore. I decided to take this deal because I know that blue is just trying to buy more development cards, and this gives me a city on my turn. So with that, blue buys another development card. Now it's gray's turn, and a 3 is rolled, and that gives me more brick. I'm starting to get very afraid of red since I'm holding a lot of cards, and no monopolies have been played yet, so I'm scared to get monopolied on red's turn. I'm also telling everyone, quick, empty out your hand before red monopolies you, since there's a high chance that red has a monopoly on their turn. And I don't want red to have a strong monopoly on their turn, so I'm telling everyone else to go ahead and use their cards. And since red goes right before me, there's not much I can do to play around the monopoly, besides tell other people to use their cards. You could say that it was a potential mistake on my turn to not port some of the wood for another resource, because that plays around monopoly. So gray decides to do a 3 for 1 and does a road settlement on the 9-4. On red's turn, they play a night card before they roll, and I sigh in relief knowing that I will not get monopolied. Red rolls another 3 on their turn and passes, and blocks the 8 ore. It's my turn now, and I roll a 6, and a cheer because a 7 wasn't rolled, and second of all, I get a sheep. This is super valuable for me, since now I can build a settlement. The reason why I wanted to build on the 5-2 is because it sets up for a 10th point very nicely. The 8 and the 5 will get me a very clean city, and the 8 is a free card since I have a 3-1 port, and the 5 is a free card since I have a wheat port. I'd also like to note on this turn, you can actually get to 9 points, and the way to get to 9 points is to do 1 extra road to get on the ore port, and use the ores to build on the 6-3-11. But the reason why I don't like this play, because it kills your chances at a 10th point, because you just used your ores, and your ore is blocked, and you want to save your ores for the city. So that's why I don't like building on the 2 brick and using the ores. And in addition, this will bring you to 9 points and everyone will be targeting you. So after I did my road bidding to the 5-2, I'm brought to 8 points, and I realized that I cannot get a 9th point with this situation right now. Building on the 5-2 makes my road segment 6 roads, and the reason why this is so important is because I cannot have my longest road be at 5 roads. If red has a road bidding and connects their roads, they're actually at 6 roads. And I don't think red has enough for 2 wood, but I think red can easily get enough resources for 1 wood, just by doing a 3 for 1. In order to take my longest road, they have to do 2 roads from a road bidding and build 2 roads manually. That first road I can expect to come, but that second road is a lot more difficult for them to get. Remember, as a road player, you always have to watch out to see if anyone can sneak longest road from you. So you're probably wondering why I decided to port my bricks for wheat compared to an ore. That doesn't make any intuitive sense. If anything, I want to port for whatever is blocked since it's more rare. But in this case, you actually want to go against that logic. And the reason why you want to go against that logic is because I know blue has night cards. And if blue has night cards, they're going to move it off the 8 ore, making the ore open. And if blue is very scared of me, they might even block the 5 wheat, which will make it rare. So that's why I decided to port for wheat over an ore. So I pass, and now it's blue's turn, and he rolls an 11. Blue plays a night card and blocks a 9 ore, and blue forgets to play the night before he rolls, but that's okay, he doesn't get punished. And he blocks the 9 ore, which I'm really happy for, and he decides to take from gray over red. And this is actually the correct play, is because you don't want to steal from someone and bring them under 8 cards. You want to let someone stay at 8 or more cards if possible, since this increases their chances at 7ing out. So blue decides to wisely steal from gray instead of red and pass the dice. Or as soon as I say that, gray rolls the 7 and red is forced to discard their cards. Gray makes a wise decision and decides to block the 8 ore and steal from me. So on red's turn, they play a road bidding, build 2 roads, and build on the 10 wheat. This is really good because red didn't play a night card, and that means largest army is going to be stuck on blue. So this gives me a lot more time. It's my turn, and I roll a 7, and I block the 9 ore, and I take from gray. With this, I decide to build a settlement on the 6-3-11. It's blue's turn, and a 9 is rolled, and I'm glad I blocked the ore. It's Gray's turn now, and they play a knight card. And they decide to block the 8 ore and steal from me. And then a 10 is rolled, giving everyone wheats. Red rolls, and he rolls a 5 on his turn. Since Red didn't play a single knight card on his turn, I think it's pretty safe to assume that those 3 cards are victory points. I also think that it would have been a strong turn for Red to play a Monopoly, and they didn't. So I think this further confirms that Red has 3 victory points instead of any Monopolies. But let's see. A 10 rolls on my turn. I can't do anything, so I decide to pass. It's Blue's turn now, and he rolls a 9. There's quite a lot of ore on the board right now. I'm expecting a Monopoly from Blue, but they decided to buy another development card. Looks like that they do not have a Monopoly. I sigh in relief. It's Gray's turn, and they're sitting at 12 cards. They roll a 4. Gray decides to buy a development card also. I'd like to make a note that we're very deep inside the development card deck, but still no Monopolies have been played. And since they're all good players, they're all very aware that a Monopoly has to show up soon. So everyone started to get very afraid of a Monopoly showing up. Gray decides to buy development cards and decides a city on the 4-9. Now it's Red's turn, and they roll a 5. Red decides to do a 3-for-1 for an ore and city the 8-4-3 for probably their 9th point. It's my turn. I dodge a 7 on my turn, and that is the game. So let's talk about the things we can learn from this game. I think the first lesson of this game is that cutting off an ore wheat sheep player is killing them. In this game, by cutting off Blue at the very start, I essentially destroyed the game and their hopes of getting on the wheat port. Not having the wheat port was super critical for them, and they made that mistake early in the game by giving them the material to cut them off. The second lesson of the game is, as the road player, you want to feed largest army to the dead ore wheat sheep player. So, the strategy as a road player to take down ore wheat sheep is to first cut off an ore wheat sheep player. The reason why you want to do this is because it buys you a lot more time and forces the other ore wheat sheep player to have an army battle or to win the hard way by putting to 10 points manually with the victory points. And the last lesson of the game is that it's okay to buy development cards as the road player when every single card inside the development card deck can help you win. When I bought the 1 development card of the game, I knew that if it was a knight, I had positioning on red. If it was a victory point, it would help me get my 10th point, which is usually a city. Then I wouldn't have to get a hard 10th point, which is a city. I knew that if I got a road building, I could still utilize it very well on the 5-2. And if I got a Monopoly, I knew that there's many things that I could Monopoly. So there it is, a game where I play road against 3 ore wheat sheep players. If you did learn something, I'd really appreciate some feedback by giving me a like or letting me know in the comments about what you want to see next. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I'm Dylighted, and I hope you learned something.